Well, we did it, boys. Well, I shouldn't say we, because I didn't even have any idea what was going on. The Libertarian Party is now firmly in control of right-wingers. Would you believe that? The Libertarian Party, the queens of promoting the gay agenda and anti-racism and condemning bigotry, they have been taken over this weekend. All of their officers now, well, I shouldn't say that far. It's not quite that good of news. But at least the top two people, the chairwoman and the vice chairman, they are a product of the influence of one Jewish comedian, Dave Smith, who encouraged his largely right-wing audience to flood into the Libertarian Party and to start just trying to vote and take over leadership positions. And I don't want to give all the credit to Dave Smith. There was a lot of people involved in this. The chairman of the founder of the Mises Caucus, which is what this group is called, Michael Heiss, of course, started before he had any influencers or podcasters on his side. But at this stage, the takeover is complete, and I don't know what this will mean necessarily, but at the very least, there is an institution in this country which was taken over by the right. Now, it's by no means a big or powerful institution. It is still the Libertarian Party, but in the hands of, actual rational people who aren't total freaks, the Libertarian Party might actually grow into something worthwhile, something meaningful. I don't think that it'll ever be a major party. I don't know, maybe they'll have one or two Congress people or something like that. But they'll no longer be posting cringe on Twitter. That is guaranteed. In fact, the new chairman, when asked what she's looking forward to most in the wake of her victory, she said the first tweet. Because the Libertarian Party, I mean, that's what it's turned into at this point, is a really, really cringy leftist Twitter account. That's about all of the Libertarian Party before this weekend had to offer. They're called Lolberts for a reason. Because, I mean, they're beyond a joke. And frankly, they are mentally defective, most of them. Or at least they were. I mean, looking at the numbers, Angela McArdle, who is the new based chairwoman, she got like 77% of the vote. So it seems to me that the normal people, the people who are considered to be, fascist right-wing Nazis by the left libertarians, have overwhelmingly conquered their party. And so what we've seen is a merging of the Libertarian podcast audience, the people who listen to Dave Smith, Tom Woods, Scott Horton, and the like, with the Libertarian Party. And I think this will mean different things for people in different states, because, I live in Florida, where I'll say pretty much thanks exclusively to DeSantis, the Republican Party is not super bad. It's not as bad as it used to be. It's not fantastic or anything like that. But I would not be chancing things with a third party at this point. The Republicans are okay enough in my state. I'm not going to try and push a third party. But if you live in some really, really bad state, where you have really, really bad Republicans, it would be worthwhile to have a third party once in a while to run against them. And that party has never been the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party has never been a viable third party because they were always run by cringy SJW weirdos who were obsessed with promoting the gay agenda. And if you didn't, kneel down, if you didn't, stand for the gay flag and kneel down before your tranny overlords, you were not welcome in the Libertarian Party. And so nobody would vote for them. Because, the people who wanted left-wing culture war politics already have the Democratic Party. So there was no appeal to the Libertarian Party. But now, when you occasionally have these races where there are two really, really unpopular people running on the Democratic and the Republican side. And people say, gee, I wish there was another option. Now maybe this party run by reasonable people will be able to field a candidate or two and maybe actually be competitive. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to win any races. But again, I don't think it's out of the question that with normal people running this, because I don't think those of you who have never attended, well, actually, no, maybe you do, because you saw the guy stripping on YouTube during his speech back in 2016. I witnessed that in person because there was, I heard the Libertarian Convention was coming to town in 2016, and so I said, oh, I'll go watch that. Let's see what they're about. So I sat in the back of the room, and for, gosh, it was only a couple hours, I think, that I was there, and I got to see that guy strip his clothes off in the middle of his, I don't think he called it a campaign speech. I think he was running to be like chairman of the party or something then, because they elected every 2 years. And it really was just like a zoo. And not in a good way. Not in like, hey, this is a really fun environment. No, it was just like, you people are freaks. You disgust me. And so they were never, going to win even local offices with the way they were. Because they had no brand. I mean, their brand was terrible. Let alone the organization. Don't even think about, their ability to actually try and run some kind of political campaign even at the local level. If you were running a local campaign yourself, you're better off running as an independent, trying to run on your own name or on your own campaign, than being stuck with this just toxic libertarian brand. And so now I think with a proper Twitter presence, which they certainly will have, there are plenty of people involved in this who are social media savvy and not cringy to make it happen. I think that they might actually be worth something. And again, not setting high hopes for these people. I'm just saying they could get some state representative seats, which they've had one or two in the past. City council seats, maybe a congressional seat if it's a real open race and there's no popular Republican or Democrat. Because I think I've seen a lot of opportunities in the past that the Libertarian Party might have had to break through and win some kind of election and get somebody elected who then could try and further their agenda. And they've never come close to achieving any of those, to ever really taking advantage of any of those chances. I mean, hell, remember 2016 when you had the two most unpopular presidential candidates, by polling-wise, they had the lowest net approval ratings between Hillary and Trump of anyone who's ever run in the history of polling. That was an opportunity for the Libertarians to try and put somebody out, and they put out that retarded pothead Gary Johnson, who didn't even know where Aleppo was. And that really stung for him because, he went on MSNBC hoping that MSNBC would like him. And then, they threw a question at him about Aleppo. And they never let him forget it. And he never lived it down. And that's how he'll always be remembered by the mainstream media. But, if they weren't so concerned with getting the media's approval, maybe they would have ran a different campaign. Maybe they would have not been so ridiculous. And that doesn't mean that they can't make jokes, they can't be funny, because it looks like their presidential candidate in 2024 is going to be a comedian, one Dave Smith, good friend of Joe Rogan. And Dave Smith, of course, is not going to become the President of the United States. Let's not be ridiculous. He knows that. Everybody knows that. But Dave will actually be able to go on TV and not make a fool of himself. In fact, he's going to make a fool of other people, because that is kind of the skill of a really good comedian. People will treat you like a clown, which makes it easier, because they let their guard down, for you to clown them. Again, look at his buddy Rogan. The reason why Rogan continues to beclown all these people in the media and all of his detractors is because they still don't take him seriously. But you know who does take him seriously are ordinary people, the viewers, the audience, his audience, and even, you know, the media's audience, what little they have left. But old Davy Smith, I don't think will be trying to get slots on CNN like the Libertarians in the past have been desperate to do. Oh my gosh, remember how excited they were when they got their CNN town hall, and in which their vice presidential candidate said that he would vote for Hillary Clinton? He wasn't even going to vote for himself in the presidential election in 2016. He endorsed Hillary Clinton during the, you know, Libertarian candidate CNN town hall. And yet those two buffoons still managed to get almost 5% of the popular vote, I think. So I don't want to set the expectations too high, and you know, it's still 2022. We're not even through the midterms yet. But I think that I hesitate to even call it a right-wing Libertarian Party, a Libertarian Party that is not overtly left-wing. Let's put it that way, because I don't think they're trying to kick out the left Libertarians, although the left Libertarians seem to have left on their own. But there is still one lady, the secretary, who of the party, who has crazy red hair. Put it that way. She looks like a left libertarian. I don't think she actually is, but that's what she looks like. And so there are still people like that around. So if you got a lady, you know, who's an officer in your national committee, who's got bright red hair, not like natural red hair, dyed bright red, like cherry red, like a Ferrari. I can't quite call you a right-wing party, okay? But it's clear who old Davy Smith would be appealing to. And let's be honest, there has never been any constituency for a left libertarian political candidate. Just doesn't exist. I mean, there might be a couple people, a couple of weird hippies, you know, out in British Columbia, but I mean, that's not even America. That's Canada. People in America with libertarian, you know, impulses, you know, they come from the right. You know, the rugged individualism stuff, that doesn't appeal to the left. Gun rights and drag queen story hour, there's not a lot of people. You know, the Venn diagram of people who like both those things, it's minuscule. So, with that said, I think old Davy Smith is probably going to be at the very least, the most successful third-party candidate since Ross Perot. He has to outdo old Gary Johnson. That guy was a joke. We all knew that. He was a joke in 2016, and he still got almost 5% of the vote. Now, if old Davy Smith were to, like, double that and get 10%, would you call that an accomplishment in and of itself? No. I mean, he still lost. He's not going to win any states, I don't think. I guess there's a possibility, you know, since the Libertarians do have such a big presence in New Hampshire, that if Smith camped out in New Hampshire for the entire campaign, might flip that one state and get 4 electoral votes, which, considering that state went to Biden and Hillary, I think Hillary won it too, actually. I think at the presidential level, New Hampshire's been going consistently blue for the last couple cycles. But anyway, at that point, you know, like if you win New Hampshire, you couldn't even be accused of, you know, oh, he's denying Trump's victory. He's going to hand it over to Sleepy Joe, who, well, actually, who knows if Biden will even still be alive at that point in 2024. I'm getting way too ahead of myself. Bottom line is, the LP moving forward is going to be completely different from what we have always known. At least that's how it looks. And for their sake, that's how I hope it would be. But all in all, I've never been or I shouldn't say never have. There were times in the past when I thought the third party route, if you had a competent third party, which this is shaping up to be, there were times in the past when I thought that was a good idea. But considering that there is an ongoing civil war within the Republican Party, and that the people like Mitt Romney are on their way out, they are losing, and that yes, they're being replaced by a new establishment, like MAGA establishment people like Mike Pompeo, who go like, yeah, let's make America great again, by bombing Iran, he says under his breath. Yeah, you still have ridiculous people like that, but there's, I think, a lot more opportunity in the GOP now than there used to be, and the third-party hill is just too big to climb when you have a GOP where you can run decent people in primaries and win. I mean, to me, the anti-war message was the biggest hurdle. It's now okay to be an anti-war Republican. If that's the case, if you can be anti-war and a Republican, in the party of George W. Bush, what was the party of George W. Bush, that old GOP is gone, and the new one is a lot more viable. There's no reason why you can't, if you're anti-war, you can't be good on other stuff too. I mean, war is the most important thing. You can be a Thomas Massey and be a Republican. So I don't see the point in having an LP at the national level. I think in certain states, again, I've talked about this before, certain states are just so bad, so cringy, that a Libertarian Party would be a potential alternative, because the local Republicans are so bad and beyond repair. But at the national level, I don't really see that, and certainly in my own state, I don't see that. I think that there are plenty of openings to be a good, decent person. Well, I shouldn't go that far. Not a good person, but have decent politics and run in Republican primaries here. Even though I don't, there aren't exactly a lot of politicians here who I'm in love with. I'm not even a huge DeSantis fan or whatever. But my point is, there's fertile ground here. If you had somebody who was good on issues running in a Republican primary here against a Mitt Romney type, a George Bush type, the decent guy is going to have a lot of energy. It's the culture of Republican voters in this state. So I know today's been a jumbled mess. I've really had to think through my thoughts, and to be honest, I had to stop and start recording a couple of times because I really just didn't get to the point in the first few minutes. But I think I've condensed my thoughts a little better, and I'd like to know what anybody else has to say about it. I'm much more indifferent to this now than I would have been in the past. In the past, I was much more of a doomer on the future of the GOP, because, like the Libertarian Party for almost my entire life, the Republicans completely sucked. Republican leadership still sucks, so I'll give them that. Here, now you have the LP has good leadership. The Republicans still don't have that. But you have an actual platform for getting your message out there and for actually winning elections, which I don't think winning elections are all that important, but you have a platform with the GOP, which I think at this stage is pretty viable. And so trying to build something else from the ground up just seems less necessary than it once did. As much as I thought Trump was a failure as president, he broke down a lot of barriers. And because of that, I think that third parties have become, for the right at least, for the anti-war right, have become a lot less necessary. I mean, at this point, I think that the voter base is such that you could take, like Dave Smith himself or Scott Horton himself, and run them in a Republican primary for like a House race. And both of them, I think, even without tempering their message at all, in the right circumstances, could win Republican primaries. And then you take a guy like Tom Woods. I mean, if you just cloned Tom Woods 500 times, he could win every Republican primary. Because Tom much more has that, he comes across, more like like what Republican voters expect. He's got that, his style is much more appeals to that. But even the rough and tumble of somebody like a Dave Smith or a Scott Horton. But what I'm saying is that their ideas are no longer abhorrent to Republican audiences. But nevertheless, I'm glad to see that the crazy people are no longer in control of the Libertarian Party because, whether it's a serious political force or not, the Libertarian Party does exist, and it does hurt me, just sort of on a very basic level, for there to be a Libertarian Party and for it to be so terrible. Even if they don't win anything, even if they don't get a lot of votes, I still want the messaging of the Libertarian Party to not make me look like an idiot. I don't like calling myself a libertarian if people associate me with the Libertarian Party. But I don't have a better term to describe myself, I hate the state. That's pretty much my most fundamental political belief. I think the state sucks. So what else are you going to call me? I guess you can call me an anarchist, but then that lumps me in with Antifa people. So at the very least, this revolution within their party will perhaps decringe, is that the right word? Destigmatize the term libertarianism. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.